Hello and good morning. I hope that you are doing well today. As I'm sure you are all aware, my name is Mark Dorsett, and I am the student pastor here at the Christabelle Spiritualist Church in beautiful Cherry Valley, Illinois. I know that last week I did kind of pull a little bit of a bait and switch on you. I'm sure quite a few of you were expecting to be hearing the sermon I'm giving today on the joy of generosity. I had intended on giving this sermon last week because on Tuesday we had National Giving Day. However, Spirit had other plans for me, and so I did provide a different sermon. But I will say, I really want to let everyone know out there how grateful I am for the generosity that each of you reached out to me with in how much you really seemed to resonate with that sermon last week. So I am very grateful for that, and I just wanted to say thank you very quickly. So, thank you. Now, on to our actual reading of our Declaration of Principles, but first, we will go forth with our invocation. Please virtually bow your heads, or bow your heads in a virtual fashion, whichever you prefer. Infinite intelligence, we direct our thoughts in this hour we are together, asking that your Spirit permeate our souls with love, harmony, peace, and a joy of communing with like-minded people. We ask that our service be blessed with only the highest of knowledge, and that it be given in accordance with our understanding so that we may continue to go forward and use spiritualism's teachings in our daily lives. Amen. And now, let us read our Declaration of Principles. We believe in infinite intelligence. We believe that the phenomena of nature, both physical and spiritual, are the expressions of infinite intelligence. We affirm that a correct understanding of such expression and living in accordance therewith constitute true religion. We affirm that the existence and personal identity of the individual continue after the change called death. We affirm that communication with the so-called dead is a fact scientifically proven by the phenomena of spiritualism. We believe that the highest morality is contained in the Golden Rule. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. We affirm the moral responsibility of individuals and that we make our own happiness or unhappiness as we obey or disobey nature's physical and spiritual laws. We affirm that the doorway to reformation is never closed against any soul here or hereafter. We affirm that the precepts of prophecy and healing are divine attributes proven through mediumship. Hello, hello, hello. Top of the morning to you all out there. I have to be honest, it is pretty incredible to me that we are now into the last month of 2020. So, what's the over-under on Godzilla coming out of the ocean and ravaging Tokyo right now? Seems like a fitting end to a rather Rod Serling-esque year, doesn't it? Personally, I happen to be expecting to wake up on New Year's Day and find Patrick Duffy in my shower and that 2020 has all been a dream. But we'll see what happens, shall we? Not only are we in the final month of 2020, but for a lot of people, especially retailers, Thanksgiving kicked off the official start of the holiday shopping and gift season. This is also a time of year when people really start to talk about how we really should be giving to those less fortunate than us. And this is also the time of year where you will start to see those red kettles outside of just about every store where we are expected to give generously. Now, this actually leads me into the topic of today's sermon, the joy of generosity. How many of you feel a sense of joyfulness when you are being generous? Okay, so without me leaning on the dictionary today, I know you're shocked by that. What does generosity mean to you? What thoughts come to your mind when I bring up that word, generosity? No hurry. I will continue while you ponder that question. Generosity really is one of those things that, to me, it can mean a lot of different things depending on the circumstances, but at its most basic, most rudimentary level, generosity really is all about giving. Well, it is of course good to be generous to other people. We must first remember to be generous towards ourselves. As I mentioned last week, I was once told by Archangel Michael that it is impossible to fill another's cup when your own is empty. And I love that phrase, I really do. I've seen this since expressed in other places, but it really is a very true statement. And it is one that I think is very important for us each to remember. So, how do we fill our own proverbial cup? Well, as I've spoken about in previous sermons, a good start is not to let yourself become empty in the first place. Take some time each day, even if it is just a moment or two, in order to be generous to yourself. Find what feeds your spirit. Find the words, thoughts, actions, whatever you need to help yourself feel empowered, to help yourself feel hopeful. If you aren't sure just what feeds your soul, I highly recommend checking out our church sermon, Have You Been Called, to help you find what really makes your heart sing. For me personally, I need quiet time. I need loud music, photography, and a willing photography subject to really help me to unwind, to get motivated, and to feed my body, soul, and spirit. Now, I really use coffee for the same purpose for my physical body. By the way, this is available through the Facebook store at the National Spiritualist Association of Churches. They're wonderful little tumblers, and that concludes our commercial portion of this sermon. Now, I really cannot stress enough how much also being a cell phone to spirit also recharges my body, soul, and spirit. It really recharges me in a way that nothing else does. I mean, there's nothing better than knowing that I can connect for someone to help provide that healing, that wisdom, that guidance that they need, but also to be that cell phone to spirit so that they can have that connection with their loved ones, and their loved ones in spirit can have that connection with them. It truly is one of the joys of my life. I really mean that. So anyway, what do you do to feed your soul if you feel like you've been drained and that your proverbial cup is empty? How can you get that back? Any ideas? How do you maintain your attitude of gratitude? So I put that question to you, gentle listeners. What feeds your soul? What do you do in order to be generous to yourself? And while I'm at it, what does that word generosity mean to you? Wait, what's that? Stop asking so many questions this early in the morning? Never! Anyhow, moving on. So, when I talk generosity, how many of your minds immediately turn towards financial generosity? Think back to all those red kettles and bell ringers that I was speaking about just a few minutes ago at the beginning of this sermon. That's just one example of financial generosity. Financial generosity can come in many forms. The red kettles, giving to a person on the street that's sitting on the sidewalk with their hand out or maybe their hat out, or even just slipping money to the grandkids, without your kids seeing, because you just want to spoil them, etc., etc., etc. Like I said, there's many forms of financial generosity, but especially right now, as we are not really able to volunteer our time the way we might normally have in the past, financial generosity usually is a very good way. It's a great way to help you feel like you're contributing or helping to contribute to a cause that is greater than yourself. I know that I personally am greatly appreciative of the financial assistance that each and every one of you out there provide us here at the Christabelle Spiritualist Church in order to help keep our lights on and our doors open and help to keep the propane tanks filled. I want you to have this beautiful chapel to come back to when we are allowed to meet in person again. And your financial support will allow us to be able to do that and allow us to maintain this beautiful structure so that we can come back to it and enjoy each other's company again in person. It does just kind of make sense, though, that financial generosity would be such a large part of our perception of what it is to be generous. Money talks, after all. We all get trained from an early age into equating money with generosity. We really do. I mean, if you think back to how excited most of us were as kids when somebody would give us a shiny new quarter or, a crisp dollar bill, what we could trade that money for. We all knew from an early age that we could trade that money for something much more exciting than just the money. We are taught from that early age to place financial generosity on a pedestal, and that it is of the utmost importance. And in some cases, that financial generosity is the only thing that matters. For a lot of us, we tie that generosity to love. And we have an expectation that if someone showers us with financial generosity in whatever capacity, that means that they care. In other words, buy me stuff! Make it rain! Well, yes, this can be true, and that buying gifts, etc., that kind of thing, can be a form of generosity. And yes, this is a material world, and we are all material girls. Financial generosity is not necessarily the end-all, be-all that it can sometimes be made out to be. I know, it's shocking, isn't it? I always laugh at those commercials that you see on television with the $10,000 diamond ring on the screen where they tell you that a diamond is forever. Well, you know what? That might be true, but if you put yourself deeply into debt because you felt the need to impress somebody that much, then that relationship probably is not going to be forever. Or, what about those car commercials? We've all seen those car commercials where someone comes walking out into the front, into their driveway with their partner and kind of basically, comes out and says, "Hey, look at these two cars wrapped in bows, Hi, honey. You know what? I love you so much that I just put us $100,000 in debt by buying these two cars without ever consulting you in any way, shape, or form. Aren't I great?" Those commercials this time of year, they really don't bother me as much as it might come across like they do. I more find them very amusing because most people that I know would be more than a little bit upset if their partner did something like that. Thanks for the generous gift, but was this a gift for me or for you? And that actually kind of leads me into a quote by Donna Lynn Hope. If you want to call attention to your good deed, then it isn't a good deed. It's a self-serving one. Why? Not only have you patted yourself on the back, but you're fishing for others to do the same. Or, what about this quote from George A. Fuller? Do the good and the right, not because thou expectest to be rewarded for thy service with the smiles and kindly words of the recipient, but because the doing of the good and the right brings its own reward in the satisfaction it causes to permeate thy whole being. I like that one. Translation? Be kind and generous because it's the right thing to do, but also because it makes you feel good. It's amazing how often we all get so caught up in getting credit for our good deeds. But honestly, the satisfaction that we get from knowing that we just helped another person, it really is an amazing reward unto itself. I truly believe that generosity can be its own reward. In addition to the idea of financial generosity, there really are many other ways to make a positive difference in a person's life, or other people's lives, if you want us to be plural. As Alan Cohen so eloquently stated, money is but one venue for generosity. kindness is an even more valuable currency. And you know what? I think that is one of those truths that I believe to be self-evident. But you know what? I'm up here, you're there, listening to me. Why don't we talk about it anyhow? Kind hearts are the gardens, kind thoughts are the roots, kind words are the flowers, kind deeds are the fruits. Take care of your garden and keep out the weeds, fill it with sunshine, kind words, and kind deeds. Henry Wadsworth Longfellow is credited with having written that poem. And you know what? I really do like how he phrased that particular piece of writing. Not only because it ties into some of my past sermons as well as the subject of this one, but I can't resist sharing at least one poem per month in my sermons, because if I don't, I break out in hives and my complexion just can't take anymore as it is. So hives averted. Anyhow, I do think as we start to focus on the joy of generosity, that it really does start to feed our soul in a very uniquely empowering way. When we are able to give of ourselves to another, in whatever capacity, it not only benefits the receiver, but the giver as well. There is something wonderfully empowering about the feeling that you've just done something to brighten the day of another, or to ease the burden of another in some way. Our acts of kindness and generosity do not need to be momentous things. You don't have to move a mountain for someone in order to make them happy or help them be happy. Because as we know as spiritualists, we are not responsible for another's happiness. We can only be there to assist them. So our acts of kindness and generosity can be found in doing the little things every day. The chopping wood and fetching water moments, if you will. Whether it be giving financially to assist someone or doing some act of kindness such as feeding them. Really, for a lot of us, food is love, isn't it? Don't forget the feeling of joy that act of kindness brings when you know that you've helped another. Even just indulging your partner in some hobby that they enjoy doing, or doing something nice, even if you personally find it ridiculous, it can be wonderfully joyful to see that you've made that other person happy. Honestly, I do that kind of thing all the time just because it will make someone happy. It might not mean that much to you, but to them, it might be an important expression of just how much you care for them. That you'd be willing to do something strictly because it brings them joy. Through that expression, their happiness becomes your happiness. So, now that you've had the last 10 or so minutes to ponder this question, what does generosity mean to you? To me, it really is about doing whatever I can to help whomever I can, however I can. Obviously, while still maintaining my appropriate boundaries so that I'm not hurting myself. But I think I covered that in our How Do You Measure Success sermon, so feel free to check that one out as well. Since the theme of this particular sermon has apparently just been me quoting more wise and eloquent people than myself, I will have to share one more quote with you before I conclude my sermon for today. Behold, I do not give lectures or a little charity. When I give myself. Thank you, Mr. Walt Whitman. I completely agree and relate to that statement. When I try and give of myself, because to me, it truly feels like it has the greatest impact, and that I personally get the most joy from it. I do think you will find the same thing if you try that, to give of yourself. Find what gives those around you the most joy and give those things of yourself. You'll find that after you start to be generous and you start to be much more open and generous with people, it will give you such a sense of joy, such a sense of happiness to be giving to others, that you'll want more of it. And as Bill Murray's character said in the movie Scrooged, you get greedy for it. You want more of it. You really will find that giving brings its own joy and that it is its own reward. So remember, as you go forth this week, be generous to others and to yourself, because the joy truly is in the giving. And that is something I can't stress enough, is the joy of generosity. Have fun with the joy of generosity. and do something wonderful for someone every day, not just today, not just during this holiday season. Do something wonderful for someone every day. Enjoy your life and feel that joy of generosity. So until next time, be good to yourself and each other. Thank you.